This is Soha Dokanish from Fashion Studio 7 magazine, and I am here today with somebody very important, not only to the University of Toronto, but also to me, one of my professors from my undergraduate studies, Professor Tavakolitarghi. How are you?
It's a great pleasure meeting with you
Thank
in
you
a different
so much.
context within my office.
Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me.
It's a pleasure.
So, Professor, I know you wrote a lot of books about modernity and Orientalism and Islam, and I just want to know, where does hijab fit into all of that?
Well, hijab really becomes an issue when we think of the East and the West, Europe and the Middle East, Christianity and Islam. And as people began to travel extensively from the Middle East to Europe, from Europe to the Middle East, hijab became increasingly identified as a sign of difference between European women and Middle Eastern Muslim Oriental women.
Mm-hmm.
Increasingly, it was assumed that European women were head covered less, and the Asian women, Middle Eastern women, Muslim women were covered their hair. So that really became, and increasingly these signs of difference became accentuated, became increasingly more important in self-identities. And this doesn't mean that always covered Muslim women were a sign of Muslim identity. Actually, much of the 19th century, early 20th century political differences had to do with whether, for example, Iranian women, Turkish women should be veiled. Those who wanted to modernize, to transform society, they would argue that the removal of the veil would be a sign of modernity. Others would argue that modernity does not have to compromise our modesty and our cultural norm.
Modernity within Islam?
Modernity really has to do with the 19th century, the radical transformations that not only Europe went through, but also Middle Eastern societies. Mm-hmm. Mode of life changed, the structure of buildings and everyday life experiences changed, and as a result, people's mode of self-presentation changed. So in a sense, fashion is closely linked to modernity, and modernity not only introduced changes in everyday way of life, for example, going from horses to carriages to bicycles and to cars and to airplanes, but also the way people dressed and presented themselves. For a long time, fashion was not really identified with Islam. People assumed that Muslims are anti-fashion and unfashionable because the assumption or the stereotypes has been that Muslims cover themselves with black chador or head covers, and thus they're anti-fashion by definition. But when you look beyond stereotypes, one sees that actually from 18th century, 19th century, one could really seriously talk about fashionable women that changed their mode of self-presentation in different ways. They may have still kept the hijab, but you can be fashionable and have a headscarf. You can be fashionable and have the niqab. You can be fashionable and have the chador or the full body cover.